B2 use 105 shells. Bring the rain.
Why are duels so thrilling? What is it about this dance in the air, the swirling streaks of fire crisscrossing the sky that capture our imagination? I picture a 1 versus 1 engagement between two supersonic jet aircraft in the same way that I picture two gladiators in the ancient Roman Colosseum, toe-to-toe, unblinking, and completely focused on a singular objective: victory. I love duels. There are no excuses when you are head-to-head with another virtual pilot in the same aircraft with the same fuel load and the same number of rounds in your cannon. The only difference between you and your opponent is you and your opponent. There is no better way to settle a disagreement in the combat flight sim world than to throw down the gauntlet and proverbially take it outside. Case in point, there I was in an EC7 match on Ruhr, trying to show a new squadron member the ropes, when a gentleman by the name of Barman began to get a little lippy in the game chat, claiming that I was incapable of air-to-air combat, and my only victories were due to camping, which was untrue, or catching him unawares, which actually was true. In all, it was about 30 continuous minutes of pure slander in the chat. So, like any self-respecting sim pilot worth his salt, I asked Barman to meet me in a private lobby after our EC match had concluded and settle our differences. The following is 7 rounds, 1 versus 1, guns only, in the MiG-21 SMT. Alright, round 1 in the MiG-21 SMT here versus Barman. We are flying the same aircraft, supposedly with the same fuel load here. We agreed at 20 minutes at the start of the round. And as we go into the merge, eyes on, left, left, he takes a high left turn, which I match with a nose low left turn as we go into a 2-circle fight here. The reason I'm going to a 2-circle is because Barman is a hell of a pilot, and he is an absolute killer in the 1-circle. So I'm going to try and avoid that here. That's the way that he kept taking me out in the Crusader in the EC7 match, so I knew to avoid that. And as he goes vertical here, what he's going to try and do is use the vertical to essentially make his turn circle smaller and increase his turn performance as he goes over the top. And he goes into what he believes is an advantageous position in my low 6, and he's going to try and burn up and hit me here as I'm in the climb. But my assessment of his energy state was that his energy state was low, because he got a really good turn in on that left turn, and so I'm guessing that his that he's burning up all his energy here as he tries to climb up. And so I continue the high left turn. This is guns only, so if we were carrying heaters, I wouldn't be doing this because I'm fairly certain that he would just hit me with a missile here. So that condensation that came off his wings, that's him pulling, and I know that he's reached the performance limit of the aircraft, and so I pull my nose down and over as hard as I can, and now we go into a downward spiral. So as you can see, his nose is pointed completely down, my nose is pointed at the horizon, so I'm trying to flat plate the aircraft to increase the induced drag as we go through the downward spiral, and then I do need some energy back, so I pull my nose down again and then flat plate it again. So essentially whoever stays on top is in the advantageous position. So something snaps off his aircraft there. Looks like it was a flap, and he actually goes into a bit of an uncontrolled spin, I think over his nose, which was quite dramatic. And I take a deep breath here, line him up, and completely miss. That was a terrible, terrible shot. Have to admit that in the moment the adrenaline was spiking as this was the first round. and I just completely mashed the stick around, sprayed all around him. Now, he did have the opportunity then to gain some energy back because he was pointing straight down. So I'd say we're just about neutral in this merge. Now, I jink to avoid a gunshot, and then go back into the vertical, and now we are in a vertical 2-circle. So as I get over the top here, I keep throwing it into manual and pulling down as absolutely hard as I can. And the reason for that is because I don't want to float up there at 0G, because if I float up there, that means that he's gaining angles on me as he pulls out from the bottom of his egg. So we turn it into left-hand 2-circle fight here. This is actually where I'd like to be, again, because I'm confident that I'm better in a 2-circle than my opponent here. Now, he's behind me, and it looks like he's in an advantageous position, but again, in order to get that sort of turn, in order to put his nose on me like that, he would have need to pulled way back on his stick and burned all of his energy. So I take it back into the vertical. I know he can't follow me fully, and I'm getting all of the winning cues here as he stays fairly stationary while my canopy just swings around on him. So I pull it up, and I'm fairly confident that I've got him, and he J's out. Now, the reason for the J out was due to fuel. It looks like he took reduced fuel load, which isn't what we agreed on, but he was trying to increase his performance, because with decreased weight, you have increased thrust to weight ratio as that ratio diminishes. But here we go into the second round. So I got a pretty good sense from that fight that he was not comfortable in a 2-circle rate fight. So as he goes and turns left, and you notice the mock cloud, he drops out of mock almost immediately, and I drop out of mock a couple seconds later. Now I'm pulling hard, but I'm not pulling as hard as him. So when I saw that mock cloud drop, I knew, okay, he's turning really, really hard again. He just wants to whip that nose around. And as we go in here, neutral, fairly neutral, I give him a lead turn, and he actually took a snapshot at me. Fairly dangerous to lead turn that much, but that lead turn gave me some angles, and now we are in a bit of a vertical fight here again, and I put my nose down, and I'm just trying to regain as much energy as possible. Again, I do not want to go into a 1-circle engagement with Barman, because he's an excellent 1-circle fighter. He flies the MiG the way that you would expect somebody to fly a delta wing aircraft, right? He abuses the angle of attack that the MiG is able to momentarily generate for very, very high alpha snapshots, and he's accurate too. He's really, really good at that. So I had that prior knowledge because we fought a couple times. I was in the Crusader, and he was in this SMT, so I knew that he would try to do that, and so that's why I'm avoiding it. Now, what we've been doing here in this vertical is, as I go through the bottom of my turn, I'm going very easy on the stick. First time I went up, I was at 500 knots. The next time 475, and the one after this I'll be at 450. And when I get to the top here, again, either in damping or in manual, I'm there you go, manual. I'm pulling as hard as I can over the top of that turn, because I don't want to float there and give him angles every single time. So here we go again, pulling gently back on the stick, 450 knots. And then we're going back up, and now I'm starting to get some winning cues. Pull back down, and there we go. So when he pulled hard and that condensation appeared on his wings, that means that he is doing everything that he can to not hit the water, and that is a huge excursion of energy in order to get his nose back up again. So throw it back into damping. I just find that makes me a little bit more stable, and I don't drain all of my energy as compared to when I'm in manual, where little twitches can make a big difference. I'm holding 319 knots. My assumption in this moment, given how low he's getting, is that he was maybe at 200 or 250 at most. But as you can see, he almost hits the water there, but he's just barely trying to keep it above water, and he reverses. And that's the absolute worst thing that you can possibly do in a situation like that. And there goes his right wing. So Again, two-circle fight against a MiG. It's not what he's expecting, right? MiG, generally, you want to take it one circle, you want to pull as hard as you can, you want to pull those snapshots, and you want the fight to be over in the first 2 turns if you can. But I'm trying to avoid that as best I can. So here we go into the 3rd round. So far we've won one due to fuel state, and we've won the 2nd one due to a rate fight on the deck. So I'm feeling pretty confident now that this is a winning strategy, and I'm perfectly happy to continue to abuse that until we reach the end of the match. So you're starting to see something familiar here. Now, I do maintain the G through the turn in order to maintain about 500 knots. And what I'm trying to do is get this fight over and done with quickly. I want to beat him, essentially. I kind of want to hammer it home now. Like, I'm feeling confident, I'm feeling cocky. That's a bit of an error, though. You know, when you start to think that, you know, you're vastly superior to somebody who is actually quite good, that puts you in a mental state which is very aggressive, which you could tell through the G that I was pulling in the turn, but, you know, might be ill-advised. So as we go here, he pulls underneath me, and he's in a left-hand turn. I'm staying high because I do not want to get down there and get into a one-circle situation. And I missed my snapshot opportunity, and now I'm in a bad spot because that was a very accurate burst of fire straight through my aircraft, which was actually excellent. The way that he pulled that off, he got his energy up, he got up above me, he pulled out a burner, and then he went into the one circle and pulled off a very, very accurate snapshot. So I was able to turn the tables on him a little bit, but again, my terrible gunnery got the better of me, and now we are in a descending spiral once again. Now, I should have noted my altitude, and I should have separated away. Instead, I'm fiddling with my air brake, I'm fiddling with my manual control, and I'm not getting the type of angles that I need in order to win this fight. I'm trying to put it back into a two-circle, but as you can see, he's directly on my 6, and he's sticking to me like glue because we're very much in a similar energy state here. So all he needs to do is maintain pure or lag pursuit, and he will continue to stay in my control zone. He can even stay inside of my turn circle if he wants to. And so he's going to fire a couple of times here. Each time he does that, I just get slightly out of plane, and I'm fairly confident. Again, actually, I think the word is cocky. In this moment, I think, okay, this guy has no idea what he's doing. You know, he's pretty lucky back here, so I'm just going to keep my speed up. Hopefully he's going to keep pulling lead for snapshots, and eventually, you know, by doing that again and again, he's not going to be able to maintain his speed like I am. But here's the deal. I'm not looking at my speed. In fact, I just leveled out there. I'm slow. He's catching up to me, and he's pretty much point blank when he takes out my left wingtip. Now, according to Barman, the fight was actually over here. So he thinks that he's won, and so he breaks off and does a little victory roll there. I'll use the analogy of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You remember the Black Knight who's like guarding that wooden pallet that they put over like a 1-inch creek, and he's like, none shall pass. So King Arthur goes there and he chops his arm off, and the guy's like, it's a flesh wound. So I saw that wingtip was gone. I thought, you know what? I'm still feeling pretty cocky. I'm still feeling pretty confident that if he were to get close to me, I might be able to pull off some sort of reversal and just spray and pray and maybe even take him out. And so I'm in full burner. I'm keeping my speed up, and he's keeping his distance. He's kind of confused as to what is going on because he believes that he's won the fight. In my opinion, the fight is not over until either somebody is ejected from the aircraft, or they've crashed, or the aircraft is no longer controllable. So I've still got some control, and in my opinion, the fight is still on because I'm still flying. And as we go through here, you know, I'm just keeping my speed up, keeping the turn in, gauging what he's doing, and I'm trying to understand why he's not now going in for the kill. If the tables were turned and I were in his situation, I would most likely burn and catch up. So that was a little odd to me. I thought, you know, why isn't he coming after me? It looks like he would be able to do that. It looks like he would be able to catch me. So there must be a reason why he can't catch me. And that's when I clued in a little bit as I look at my fuel state, and it's blinking at me, and I'm thinking, oh no, you know what? He's not in burner because he's probably out of fuel. And so I'm trying to climb now. If I run out of fuel and I no longer have, if I can no longer manufacture energy with my engine, I'm going to use potential energy in the form of altitude to cash in. So I get some altitude, engine dies, he's still sticking back there, and it doesn't look like he's getting too close to me to engage. So at that point, I think I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to let him know that I'm out of fuel. Maybe he'll agree to a draw or a tie or something along those lines. I see that he's actually been messaging me, so I let him know I'm like fuel, in the sense that I'm out of fuel. And then I'm asking him, what's your fuel state? And he says, you want to win on fuel? Okay, all right, fair. I don't want to win on fuel, but let's see, is this a situation where we can call it a draw? And he says that he has a full tank. So I ask, okay, if you've got a full tank, come on and finish it. Let's see what happens. You can't just claim a victory if the other guy's still flying around. And so he claims, okay, because you're done. And I was like, you know what? All right, fine. If realistically speaking, I'm not going to win any sort of fight. So I put her in the deck. And that's one for Barman. The lack of audio when he J's out gives me a pretty good indication that his engine was out as well. But no problem. So now we are back in the engagement. I take it vertical this time, so changing it up a little bit, not just doing the left turn. He also changes it up, so he goes right. I'm guessing his assumption was that I was going to go left again, so he's trying to force that one circle. So I'm slotting up high. I see that he is coming up toward me. And same kind of deal. I'm just keeping my speed up. We're in a bit of a two circle here, and now once I get past his extended 6 o'clock, I start to clamp down on my turn, and I'm essentially in just the most massive lag pursuit possible. I'm nose low so that I can keep my speed up, and as he gets in right close here, again, staying in very extended lag pursuit, because I know what he's going to try and do is exactly this, which is he's going to try and get into a rolling scissor, which again I'd like to avoid, because as you can see, he's got some great aim, and once he's in close, he's pretty deadly. He hit me in that one circle up high, and then he also hit me when he was close in, so it's a dangerous position to be in. So now we've transitioned again to a two circle fight on the deck. I'm at 400 knots, 375 now, and I am very much engaged in the rate fight, and I'm getting all the winning cues again. Now this little maneuver here where I go vertical and then go back down, that reduces my horizontal turn, and that's actually a trick that Mamoran taught me. Mamoran is another sim pilot, and he taught me how to beat a Mirage in a Phantom. And that was one of the ways he did it. He said, once you've got the advantage there, go vertical and turn in, lead hard, and go for a snapshot, and you'll win. So he hit the ground there. Again, when you're that slow, the aircraft is barely controllable. So I thought, okay, I've got a win under my belt. We're getting close to the end of the match here. So I decide to pull in to a one circle fight using the vertical, and that's a hit right on the engine there. So his horizontal turn meant that he didn't give himself any sort of advantages compared to my vertical turn. So when I went high and I pulled over, again pulling really, really hard, I get an extra 1G on that turn for free. So it's called God's G, right? It's up there at the top. As you're pulling over, that extra G is helping push your nose down and maintain your energy as you go through that turn. So now he dives straight for the deck. That's actually a good move. And he tries to bait me into a one circle fight again. I do not take the bait. I go straight vertical. He can't keep up with that when his engine is belching black smoke. That's a very clear indication that that aircraft is no longer combat capable. And I would say that, maybe the fight was over in that first turn, but I wouldn't say that because I kept flying with that broken wingtip. So I thought, okay, no problem. So as we go into the 6th round here, same kind of deal. I'm now feeling confident again. I think, all right, buddy, let me show you how it's done. So first turn, I'm able to get significantly better angles on him. Take a shot, no dice, and now I'm in his extended 6 o'clock as he reverses, as I would have expected, to go into a rolling scissor. I miss. Missing a lot, but again, adrenaline's pumping through the veins here, so we're going back in. He's reversing again, and I can see that there's an opportunity there, and get a hit, and he eats it. Now, I'm not sure why I didn't get the kill attribution there. I'm thinking that maybe he tried to pop flaps to get some extra degrees per second to get out of my nose or to jink. Maybe that's what got him, but either way, that would be a maneuver kill. So now I'm going right as he went vertical, but unlike the previous engagement where I went vertical and he went sideways, I'm actually using the vertical as well by going nose low, and that gives me some extra energy. I lock him up with my radar here. This is actually a psychological tactic. So when your RWR goes off, you immediately clench because you know that means that somebody has their nose on you, relatively good idea that somebody has their nose on you. And I also fired, and that also puts your opponent on the psychological back foot because it makes them think, well, if they're firing, they must think that they're in a good solution, that they have a good firing solution. So we're now again in a vertical fight with the MiG-21, and I'm pulling hard over the top, and I'm gently pulling at the bottom in order to build speed so that I have the energy advantage every time we go through one of these turns. And he tried to bait again into the rolling scissor. I don't take it because I do not want to. I don't want to get into that fight this time. I don't feel confident that I would be able to win that if we went into that fight again. And now, as we go into the deck transition, you can see that on my canopy, he's staying pretty neutral, but I felt that I was faster going into that deck transition, which means that in order to stay neutral there and get all of those degrees a second, he would have had to have pulled as hard as he possibly can on his stick and go for a snapshot. And that's pretty consistent with the rest of the fights that we've seen as well. And so I go vertical, just like Mamoran taught me, over the top, and go for a shot. No dice. I miss. Surprise, surprise. And then he reverses. Don't reverse. That's I guess if there's one lesson, it's don't reverse. Try and get your speed back up. If you're going to change up the geometry, don't just reverse, because that just solves all of my resolves all of my angles. Like that, it just gives me all the angles back. So this is kind of the most important part of the video here now. So we've gone through, we've done 7 rounds, and now Barman and I are back in the lobby, and of course, because we are sim pilots, we are complete gentlemen, and we resolved this the way that only gentlemen do. And I said, hey, great fights, man. He said, pretty good. Now, how do you do that? And this is the whole point, right? So we're in a community where the idea is that the person that you're fighting against, if you defeat them in a one-on-one encounter, if you beat them in a dogfight, it's because you hoarded every single advantage that you have. You kept your cards close to your chest and you played them, flat out aggressive, and you win that fight. So I believe that it's in everyone's best interest for everyone to get elevated and for everybody to learn as much as they can about the art of dogfighting, so to speak. Now, I'm no expert. I'm very much still learning, and Barman is an excellent pilot. Again, my advantage in that situation was that I'd flown against him a couple times in that EC match prior, and I saw that his strength was the one circle fight with the MiG-21, which makes sense. It's a delta wing aircraft, great for high supersonic intercepts, but also great for extreme angle of attack. So I know that that's the way he's going to play that. But when you're in a like for like aircraft, when you're in the exact same aircraft with the same fuel state, and how the opponent is going to perform, you have to essentially do the opposite or do the same just very, very well. And so I decided, hey, the MiG-21, I wouldn't call it a rate fighter, but then again, not many people would, and not many people would practice with it. So if you're in the same aircraft, then by all means, try that out and see what happens. And yes, there were a couple of situations there where I also took it one circle. I was feeling very confident in those moments that I had an advantage there too, which was a psychological advantage because we were about 4 rounds in, and I'd taken 3 of them. So I felt that he might be a little bit more cautious. Maybe he's not going to pull as hard. He's going to try and maintain his energy because he kept running out. And so it's like a game of rock, paper, scissors, right? Eventually, the more rounds you play, you start to see what your opponent is thinking and what they're going to be doing. So that concludes the video here. Barman and I are now friends on War Thunder, and I really look forward to flying with him in some EC matches. I think we did a great job about resolving this one with a friendly duel. And so that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much.